both here in Korea and abroad. Of course, Catch went over to the LJL for a while. Of course, a lot of you will remember the name Detonation Focus Me, was their jungler for quite some time, and actually did have a lot of hype while he was there as well. Guga spent some time on TPA. And many other regions
of game number 1.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. I feel like standard-wise, front to back, ESS probably do have a little bit of an advantage, but Jin do feel like they spike with this composition at around the same times as this ES Sharks squad. So, who's going to be able to just play straight-up better League of Legends is the question, and it's always fun where it's almost skill matchups across the board because you really get an idea of who the better team is.
That's what we're going to find out. Let's get those cheers, and that's how ES Sharks fans do. First time in Lolpa.
There's some diehard ES Sharks fans there in the audience.
They got their big woo in as well.
Yeah.
Ric Flair approved on that one. Here's Jisoo.
Oh,
we were waiting for his spicy picks. How about some spicy lane assignments? The level 1 cheese. If you're against a team that ain't done much winning, cheesing them at level 1, and the mental boom is imminent.
But how many times does this Scion strat happen before you just expect it to happen? Because we've seen this so many times, and there are multiple Scion cheeses you can do. There's suicide strat to try and take buffs, things like that we've seen. But
the thing is, you don't see Scion that often, and he comes back, and it's
and then you have to remember all the weird stuff, yeah.
And you also consider, don't Ezreal and Braum really want first access to the minion wave at level 1, and thus they're really incentivized to start the dunking on Vayne early, and then suddenly Scion cheeses them. So a lot going on here. You have to run straight into the brush to make sure there's no lane ward. They know that for sure, but Nova should check this. Let's see if he puts a Q into the brush.
Yeah, where is Jisoo going to stand? Jisun's going to be alongside to try and translate, but
Thank you for the translation.
Winter's Bite did actually register there.
He's staying. That's so tricky.
Oh my! This is the next level.
I know.
Next level.
Now he's teleporting.
Okay.
He's like, how many minions can I miss? The answer's not that.
Yep. Okay. Well weighted there from Nova. Jisoo comes up, misses 1 minion, but otherwise isn't punished too much, and he's just going to cop spells over and over again in this lane anyway.
It's a pretty sucky matchup against the Ryze.
Yeah.
As Scion, we see a lot less Scion because his ability to shrug off damage got, toned down again and again. So, yes, he will probably be fine, but I think he will be taking plenty of hurt during the laning phase. Notice has gone Unsealed Spellbook for Shenanigans, so Jisoo doesn't give us the Shenanigans pick in game number 1, but the Shenanigans Summoner will have to do.
Yeah. He tried for the Shenanigans, but just not enough came out. And I think we've now said Shenanigans enough. Any Super Troopers fans out there will know that we probably should avoid saying that too many times.
It feels like a word that most people retired, so we're bringing it back in style for game number 1. Looking at the rune choices here. See if our eyes are drawn to the approach velocity, very normal on the Braum. Both supports picking that one up, and it is, of course, the Taste the Blood Ravenous Hunter duo for Vayne. Remember that even though you max true damage first, you do get Vamp from that Ravenous Hunter on the true damage portion, so sustain upon sustain.
Yep. See whether it keeps Light in action here in this lane. Of course, I've personally always liked Vayne into Ezreal, just as a historic matchup, but I think it's a very different story when you turn the nameplates on, Papa, as you like to say. Root versus Light does certainly seem like a matchup that Root should have a pretty handy advantage in, just based on playstyle.
And Jin should count their blessings that, losing Teddy, getting a new 80 carry. We can still say that about Jin. Their 80 carry position is one where they've shone. Root has definitely had some bad games where he was one of the reasons the team lost, but as a player making his debut into LCK, that's not something that we're going to hold against him because he also had the pop-off performances, right? And if there was ever someone to invest money in on the side of Jin this season, it was Root. So overall, he's had, I would say, a pretty impressive first split in the LCK as a rookie. Now he needs to perform in the clutch, though. It's not the clutch playoffs you want to be in, but it's the clutch playoffs he's in.
Well, Light taken down to about half health, so at the moment, Root's having a great time in this Ezreal versus Vayne matchup. Mid lane, we were having a look. Kuzan had the wave in a decent spot, but was taking a fair bit of harass there from Grace, who has gone for the Electrocute Ignite. Just trying his very best to smash Kuzan in this lane state. And
given that we expected ESS to really kind of opt into getting advantages through solo lanes, we don't have any winning matchups for them. The best is kind of this Syndra LeBlanc skill matchup in the mid lane. So they haven't approached as we expected, and a lot of this is come in at 2 items and Vayne pops off. So speaking of Vayne, catches bot lane.
Yeah. And Nova almost eaten. Great knock into the wall there with the Condemn, but Root's able to flash and E to get himself out of the way. Grey Health will keep Goober alive for now as C's comes on forward. And yes, I know I accidentally said Goober, but he wasn't a Goober in that situation. He kept himself up.
That was actually a really good Condemn from Light.
Yeah.
Very nice angle on that. Getting Summoner out of Root is something. Goober using his heal is definitely a lower impact loss of Summoner. No kill on either side, and no goobers just yet.
Not a goober just yet. As Nova and Root just shove this wave in, they will be able to get a really nice back timing there.
That's some good Klepto procs as well. 500 CS lead, but 18 CS. Some of it's going to be cleaned out, so it's not quite an 18 CS lead, but nice little laning phase there from Root. Only the Summoner that goes the way of ESS.
Yep, Linderon going to make his way back, and he's actually gone Klepto on the rise, so just making sure that he can capitalize as much as he can from this positive matchup.
It went from a very specific champion, GP and Ezreal only rune to basically a range versus melee rune. That's when we see it most reliably. So Linderon going to farm up, and the real question is, who do you like at 2 items? Because both these teams spike very early, right?
Yeah.
I think ESS have the bigger front line. Rek'Sai with a Warrior and a Braum isn't the same as Sion. What we expect to probably be we'll see, actually, which type of job we see as mid lane.
Yep, Kuzan's going to instantly use the cleanse. I don't think it's going to be enough. Gets stunned up, but in comes Guga. And he's able to devour Kuzan and take him to safety. 100 health after the Ignite ticks down, but so far everyone's been playing damage control pretty effectively on both sides. It has meant that Jin Air have continued to have that laning advantage.
But Kuzan forced back, and what we said is a swinging matchup means at least CS is going to go the way of Grace. They're greeting for turret blitz at the moment. They're going many angles onto Catch, but he's going to be fine.
Yep. Going to be able to clear out, I believe, the Raptor camp as well. So no harm, no foul for this particular moment in time. Just feels like even though we're not seeing any kills, we're not seeing any direct results, it's Jin Air that are benefiting from all of this early action.
And that, to me, is already a surprise, because we thought, above all else, ES Sharks would be win lane, win game.
Yeah.
That's how they've approached a lot of their games in Challenger. Again, their solo lanes are who very often carry them through the game. And so, for it to be a comfortable laning lead without any real jungle intervention to the side of Jin Air already goes against our prep, and you wonder if ES, yes, they haven't lost any game in draft, but they've also seemed to not amplify where they usually win from. And Jin Air kind of gleefully accepting what has been a pretty quiet first 7.5 minutes.
Yeah, I find this matchup especially very interesting, as that's a Silver Bolt's proc onto Root. It's going to hurt at level 6. Get 3 points in it from Light.
For context, Light played 11 games of Kai'Sa. Definitely not a lane dominant carry pick. So gets it going. 9-2. Ezreal 5-3. Lucian 4-1. The closest you get there.
Oh, that was
Catch.
huge. Yeah, comes in.
Steal.
Benefits from the control ward and does use the blast going to get himself over towards this Mountain Drake, who will wake up and won't cop anything from Catch just yet.
You can go Warrior Jarvan this game. We see almost always Cinderhawk. And you say, okay, meat shield for Vayne, that's the way you should expect. But it's Sion top lane, right? So you have an ultra tank, not a temporary tank in the top side. So Warrior enchant, and then just one rotation. Syndra Jarvan has burst range on most of Jin Air at most points in the game. So I actually wouldn't hate Warrior enchant Jarvan this game. So I assume Cinderhawk. I waited for the extra info. We get the Cinderhawk. So that does mean that now the Syndra has even less to work with from the jungle role. I don't know. It feels like a lot of breathing room for Jin Air.
Yeah, it could be a little bit of a rough one, especially if they're going to try and gank Linderon. Getting any damage onto him will be rough with just the Sion and Jarvan. However, base damages for Sion in the early game are certainly nothing to scoff at, as our Root doesn't get Silver Bolt. Will therefore be completely fine shoving this wave further in.
You said Silver Bolt. Can't we say Silver Bolted?
Oh yeah, I should have.
That's a better one.
Yeah.
You guys don't know, one of my initial impressions of Atlas as a caster way back when, he had this terrible habit of making...
Hey,
habit? I'm telling my story.
Okay,
you can tell your story.
Okay.
You had a terrible habit of making every single skill name into an adjective.
Yeah, no, verb.
A verb, sorry. So, like, relentlessly pursued, excellent one.
Yeah, ardently blazed, fantastic one. Piercingly lit, brilliant.
I mean, both those are really funny.
Tumbled, that's great.
Yeah,
We
but
can use
tumbled
that
is
one.
just a thing.
Yeah,
There was one
dark-speared.
in particular that made me very angry. I don't remember
Ardently
it.
blazed made you really angry. I remember that one.
That one made me.
That was the one that you did not like it at all.
Look, that was pretty lit. That's pretty lit.
No, piercingly? I don't know. There are a few. There's a few abilities that you just straight up can't do it with, which is a little bit frustrating.
Do you remember our first cast?
Yeah, I do. That was ACL Sydney in 2013. Smithy?
Do you remember much about it, apart from the fact that we
I remember
casted
my
at that
hair was
tournament?
ridiculous.
It was. You were still named Slappy Baggins back then.
I was named Slappy Baggins back then. And what else do I remember?
I remember there was some StarCraft casters there. Maynard
There
was
were.
there.
Yeah,
Remember
Maynard
that?
and Zeph were next to us, making so much noise. Maynard, if you know who he is, he's got big dreadlocks. He's a fantastic guy, very friendly, but extraordinarily loud.
Yeah, we cast, an LCK final together with LS a few days ago. I'm thinking about how different that stage was to that,
Oh, yeah.
our ACL Sydney backstage. ACL Sydney or Melbourne?
ACL Sydney.
Sydney, yes.
I did Melbourne earlier on with Menace that year.
Why'd you change Slappy Baggins? What a name.
I did with Menace and Hot Soggy Noodles was my other co-caster. He had some fun names back
Dale
then.
Never Fails.
Dale Never Fails, who changed his name then.
He was one of my teammates on...
Mind Freak back in the day?
No. Before that, we're still talking about 2015.
Oh
but,
my goodness.
Nothing's happening in this game. ES Shark's going to run at the Mountain Drake and take it.
True Shot Barrage almost steals, but there's a smite there for catch, so he'll be fine.
Now, he was top laner of my team. I was jungler, in case people were wondering, and now I'm a terrible jungler, but never mind. But my mid laner, Chief Swiffer, or better known as the mid laner of Order over in Oceania, couldn't quite make it, runners-up of that tournament. He's still playing pro, and I've been retired for like 6 years.
I know.
So weird. He was a baby back then. He was 17 and I was 25, so there was an age gap on that team for sure. I was the joker of the team, I guess.
Yep. I remember back on, he went from there to Exile 5, I believe, and that was when I was casting that ACL Melbourne competition. It's still playing with his mate Spooks. Probably a few Oceanic fans
yeah, and we got
watching
Oceanic
right now. We're at a
OG
pretty good
and
time.
Soul Strikes is coach
Exactly.
of good old ESS Sharks. Come on, it's the promotion.
Yep.
This is our time to go off topic. Nothing's happening in this game.
Well, Root's actually taking a lot of damage towards the bottom side of the map. Silver Bolt's landing. The ultimate is in there. The flash through. Nova just dies mid-air. He was trying to bring down the fissure, but it never even happened.
And that was the ignite on the match, it feels like, and suddenly an all-in bot lane. That's why Vayne was always liked against Ezreal in a long lane. The chase extends even after things like Flash and the Arcane Shift are used.
Oh, that
Red Buff
was really
got
cute.
very, very concerned, but is going to live, and suddenly, first blood ES Sharks.
Yep. Top side of the map as well. I mean, Jisoo's not down by as much as he could have otherwise been. Looks like Abyssal Mask will be coming in here for the Scion. Doesn't feel fantastic anymore, but should be keeping him alive against Linderung. Seas has started off. Shelly.
They don't have a spot on the health bar of Shelly right now, which is actually really frustrating. They don't know. They probably could have walked up and postured for a fight. They're going to come in pretty late. They still don't see the health bar until now.
Yep, they get the vision of it. Seas
Okay,
takes that one
anyway.
away. All right, the choo-choo train comes forward. He skips past Linderung, but the Cataclysm is there to stop the Scion from getting through. True Shot Barrage does do some work as Guga has to gobble up Kuzan. But you can see Lighty's starting to pop up again. The Braum falls down. Kuzan has to flash. The cleanse is there for the ignite, but he's so low. Void Rush will finish him off, and now Light follows him through. All the damage is now dead as they have to try and escape. But the Realm Warp is going to follow them through. Jisoo gets locked down. He'll go into the Zombie Scion form, and I have a feeling it's going to be a very early ace for Jinner, and in fact, that's the fact.
Not a perfect ace, but an ace nonetheless. And Atlas, you don't need to see the comms to know that that was definitely ES Sharks caught between two ideas. The moment that the choo-choo train hits the wall and doesn't even get initiation after the Rift Herald was down. They called the fight late. They mis-executed on it. Rift doesn't die. I guess he got that going for him, but
Very close to.
a bit of a comedy of errors, and ES Sharks have been the architect of their own downfall.
Yeah, let's have a look at it one more time. Shelly gets taken. They almost deny it from C's, but he does get through and tunnels out.
The ult starts when Rift Herald is never going to be their objective. They have negative synergy between the Cataclysm and the Unstoppable Onslaught. Definitely an I'm helping moment on the Cataclysm. And yes, they get the first kill, but even now, they're meandering. Light is meandering next to Kuzan as ES Sharks are checking with Vision at the top. They get aced on the takedown here. Jin Air have a lot more mobility with things like the Realm Walk and just LeBlanc as a champion. They gleefully accept the 5-kill donation and the Rift Herald from ES Sharks.
And Grace played that fight so incredibly well, but he was extraordinarily close to being condemned into that Baron Pit wall. Things could have gone very differently if Light had have had that one on lockdown, but unfortunately for ES Sharks, it wasn't going to be the case. Jisoo pushes that cannon minion out of the way. See whether they are going to be all right.
And it does paint a picture of what we were talking about, where we say, oh, you're going to play this way, you could win this way, but that's not how your bread is buttered. That's not how you usually play. And comfort for a team coming from challengers is so important, Atlas.
Oh, yeah.
They're coming into an unfamiliar territory. Some of these players, you know, they've played so much of their career over at Africa TV in that challengers arena. Now they come on to the LCK stage with a bigger crowd, with people cheering. They need to fall back to something. You need to find something to hold on to. And they're playing a comp that plays away from their usual win conditions. They don't normally dog it in the laning phase for a 5v5 fight that Light covers. That's not how they usually approach. So I feel like we're seeing that where it came to a team fight, their call is split, and the play also doesn't fall into place.
Yeah. A little bit of a shame, but they still do have time to turn this one around. I actually quite like ES Sharks' composition against Jin Air in the late game. You know, I know that we were talking about the fact that they scale up alongside quite nicely, but if you've got everyone with lots of items, it feels pretty good. As OK Jisoo goes very aggressive. Catch is making his way up as well. We mentioned this. The fact that they don't necessarily have a lot of damage, and Linderong just waits for all the CC and walks his way out.
I'm pretty sure Linderong, if he had flash up, could run away from them. So yes, with Jarvan, eventually Cinderhulk Jarvan does 300 damage, but we saw a Rakan with Baron backdoor next to a Jarvan in that G2 versus Fnatic game. So Cinderhulk Jarvan doesn't really do any sort of damage.
And also there's a Void Staff already built after the Seraph's Embrace on Linderong. He is super far ahead.
Yeah, Linderong is rich.
He like pole vaulted his way in this lane after the last little while. It was just a gigantic spike in money in CS.
This feels like, for once, Jin Air are the jocks in college, and
yeah,
ES Sharks are like the high school kids, the hotshots trying to come in, because they're having their lunch money stolen by double Klepto, and ES Sharks made a mistake, and yeah.
And by Prey Seekers, as it turns out.
They're having their lunch money stolen by a whole squad.
Yep. Jin Air quit the chess club, and now they're straight onto the track, Bubba Smithy. I don't know what's happening.
Apparently they should have got on the track earlier.
Yeah, I know. Just they've really mismanaged their skill set, I think. As Light is still there with 2 kills. He has Blade of the Ruin King completed, and Vayne does do things. Once she gets some items, probably wants to have that Ginsu's built up. Right now it's all about Jin Air here. 5 and 2, and an Infernal Drake has been taken already. Mountain will be the next one. Well, that was cute from Grace.
But side lane Syndra, yes. Again, we talked about how Syndra and LeBlanc, when they press their buttons predictably on each other, it's pretty even. In the side lane, LeBlanc's got mobility, and Syndra doesn't. She doesn't want to be in a side lane. You know, potentially away from blue buff, depending on the teleport situation as the game goes on. Jisoo has the teleport cleanse, which is just about repelling a potential Rise all in, but certainly isn't going to be the most useful teamfight spells. We already noted the Void Staff mean that the side lane going to be perilous for Jisoo. He's going to have to start building armor at some point. Things are really not falling into place, and well,
see you, Linderong.
Yep. Even the blast plans on the Jin Air side, on the ESS side, are being stolen by Jin Air.
Yeah.
What else can they steal?
I don't know. I don't know what's left. As C's is coming on around, looking for Kuzan. Gonna find him though, but that does mean that they have inside access to the inner turret. Out of falling in the mid lane relatively quickly. And honestly, it feels like things are just falling apart for ES Sharks. The really rough thing is that if you lose the first game as a team coming up from Challenger, it's so much harder to dig deep and find that second game victory. There just isn't that stage experience that you get from being at Lowell Park for an entire season.
And I think as some people be coming in and watching this tournament, it's getting better viewership than in previous years because Challenger's career was the hotness, right?
Oh, yeah.
We had 3 out of 4 teams promoted in the last 2 promotions, and all 3 of those teams made playoffs this season. So I think it's not unfair for someone who didn't watch Challengers to come in and say, oh, is it the new Griffin Damwon sandbox in this tournament? And we already knew the answer was no. There was not that much talent left over. At some point when you have Griffin, Damwon, Sandbox all get promoted, and 15-man roster from Hanwha Life, and also 10-man rosters elsewhere, there just can't also be another overflow of immense talent. I think over the course of all the teams, yes, there's 5 players who wouldn't look out of place in LCK, but not on one team. Okay. ES Sharks standarded their way to this tournament. I don't know if standard's going to be enough to win.
Well, there's the flash condemned, just straight up not hit Linderon, guts him out of the way of the train as well as he gets the passive sidesteps, and Cataclysm finally finishes him off. But it's a 1-for-1. He just murdered Light on his way out.
Yep, that's the only way to talk about it. Light trading his life for Linderong, and outnumber isn't great news for ES Sharks across the map. The gold lead only extends for Jinet.
Yeah, Light flashing to miss a condemn is certainly not a highlight, as Nova is going to get stunned. Will they be able to take him down? The door not in the right spot, but Kuzan does invest the ultimate to try and get rid of just a Brawl.
He tried to hold the door, and it's Game of Thrones season, so it seemed like important thing to point out. The door in this case, a little bit too flimsy. We're going to watch the replay, and it's...
I don't want to see this replay.
Well, it's Light trying to make a piggyback play, because they understand that Sai on the side lane is always going to lock down Rise, and then theoretically, Vayne just kills him. Unfortunately, this Rise already has 600 damage overloads, and that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Catch at least gets a whole bunch of money, but he isn't Warrior Jarvan. So where is that money going? It's going to try and build himself a relatively early Gargoyle Stone Plate, which I don't think is going to be winning ES Sharks any games.
All right, Atlas, Game of Thrones came back. We can't spoil it, obviously, because some people haven't watched it, some people haven't caught up.
Yeah.
The most recent episode is like, what, 30 hours old?
Yeah,
give me a
like
one-word, non-spoiler review of the episode.
I don't really want to.
I've got one.
Oh, yeah?
Glad play.
All right. Yeah, that's a decent one.
So your work, whether it's right now or whether you take your time, one-word review, non-spoiler of Game of Thrones. Season 8, Episode 1.
Nah, I'm just not even going to do it. I'm not going to do it. That's just... I in fact tweeted about this. I think that if you spoil anything, you're a bad person. As Kuzan's going to have to flash. Does do so. That is going to get them out of there. Grace just goes back to his original distortion, which is why he disappeared. Do get the flash out of the Syndra, though, and he has to go back home, does Kuzan.
And awkwardly, Jinner is getting so much of the map objectives before we even have 2 items on Light. Light got 2 kills. He had a pretty decent game, right? He's been the benefactor in some scenarios, but he doesn't even have teamfight items, and all ES Sharks drafted for was, we've got initiation and solid lanes, Vayne can carry us. And they need that Vayne ready. This is the first point when the items are there, but it's going to be so telegraphed and predictable, and if LeBlanc just WQRs the Vayne to half health, suddenly all of the team win condition is gone for ES Sharks.
And the access onto Light is pretty comfortable as well, and then their chase down with the Realm Warp, as we saw earlier on, is pretty easy. Even C's at this stage of the game is a big threat, almost with the Sterix Gauge in hand. I just feel like, you mentioned it earlier on, this is not the kind of composition we were expecting out of ES Sharks, and I feel like it's resource management that is the biggest letdown here for this Challengers career team.
When the ultimate payoff is, you probably should win teamfights in the mid-game, and everything else is fuzzy, was it worth it, right? Is the easy answer to that, and I think for me, especially knowing where Kuzan and Jisoo have carried so many games on Renekton, Corki, all these things, I would argue no. Jisoo shorts the R.
He does. He gets taken down to about half health as Light. He's frontlining. That is not what you want to be doing. Does have the ultimate and finally gets himself into a decent position. Gets the tumble, but Grace gets into the backline, and Linderong is gigantic. Eventually, the quadra kill comes in. Light gets 1 kill, but that is not going to be enough. 11-5 as Jin are just rinsing ES Sharks.
And that absolutely is the greatest illustration of our point. Not worth it to get this Vayne to this point. Initiation shorts, the options short, the quadra kill is ordinary. Jin Air turn on to Baron, Infernal, whatever they want. I believe all objectives are Jin Air's.
Oh yeah, the Glad plane is flying real high here today. It's been a while since we've been able to say it, but frontlining Vayne, that's the start of a bad story, Papa.
Yeah, I mean, Catch is nowhere near, right? They're trying to herd away Grace, I guess, in the back line. It's just too easy. Front to back, taken down. Everyone in front of him was supposed to be the Vayne story. It was amusingly Linderong's story on the rise. This is too big a lead for the enemy comp to answer, so I think we're already, if we're ES Sharks, wanting to get back, talk to our coach, and work out a Game 2 plan that's a little bit more straightforward.
Yeah, they are going to be able to side switch here in game number 2, so we'll see whether ES are going to be able to get themselves a priority pick that they like to play around. They're, of course, feeling really dominant here in this game, though.
May I introduce you to epically fed Raid Boss Rise.
Yeah, and we haven't seen a performance like this from Linderong in a really long time. We did get treated to it quite a few times when he was on Hanwha Live.
It's Darius, one of the very memorable picks for him, and yeah, on Jin Air. I mean, he hasn't even been playing that much recently. They've preferred Tana from time to time, but comes in, suddenly a Raid Boss. Sion was never going to be one to stop him in the lane. It was all about stifling, and unfortunately, no stifling has been impacted if you're an ESS fan. This Rise is way too big, way too early, and Jin Air with the Baron attacking in multiple lanes.
Yeah, Kuzan as well. The Syndra not exactly great. Dealing with Baron minions. Even a Siege minion's going to be left alive. Linderong towards the top side. It's a true 1-2-2 at this stage as the train is going to park its way towards mid lane, but
no, hit the curb!
Yeah, it's a bit of a bonk. That's a bonk.
That's going to leave some observers.
It is.
Going to have to go back to the body shop.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. They've got those. I've seen Pacific Rim. If he's got that particular skin on at the moment.
Agreed, Mega Sion.
Yeah. So at least he will be able to get back to the shop. But he's not going to be done for a little while. And right now, feels like he's just going to have to work with having a bit of a rough time so far this game. True Shot Barrage is avoided with a tumble there from Light.
We've learned not to send Jisoo to the LCS for the Sion drifting game.
Yeah, no, don't do that. I think he's failed 3 times so far.
But his Kled's so good.
Oh, it's another Vayne gank.
It is.
Linderong may just kill him. Yeah, first overload hits, the flash comes in, misses the condemn again. As, okay, doesn't actually kill him on the way up, but there's no way Linderong is dying at this stage.
The base, by the way, the base.
Yeah.
the base.
No, but we're going to kill Linderong.
No, but the base.
All right, okay. Well, Kuzan is now just trying to find some minions to hit. Can't actually get there. Inhibitor falls in the mid lane, will fall on the top side as well. And what did we just gather there, ES Sharks? I think the answer is not a heck of a lot.
If you're going to Vayne flank, why didn't you draft carries so Vayne could try to flank? The whole point is to fight behind the thick boys.
Oh my goodness. Wow. This game of Vayne spotting is going to make someone very sick, I think. As Root comes on over, he's going to help grab the second Infernal Drake here for Jin Air. I don't know why they're tidying this one up. I have a feeling they can just shove into the base, but they don't have too much longer on the Baron. Just want to do some table setting. Collect red buffs, red drakes, a whole bunch of items. Head back and win this game.
Well, unfortunately, ES Sharks have shown that the step up to the LCK has been much more pronounced than any of our recent teams, even Every winners. They didn't promote in the LCK Summer 2018 promotion, just a year ago from now. But I think they had some more convincing points. They went to full 5-game series against MVP in that particular tournament. ES Sharks came in standard, but winning through lane counter picks. Didn't drop the lane counter picks, and unfortunately are coming away looking like very much Challengers team. So if they decide to go this strategy again in game number 2, I think their exit could be pretty swift.
Yeah, I think what disappoints me is the fact that we're not seeing what ESS used to win so many games. And I feel like here it's a showcase for what you're capable of, and if you don't play your style, then I feel like you're just stifling yourself.
You know what's even worse? If you don't even know what your style is.
Well, that's true.
To me, that's the thing that you should have worked out over 16 best-of-3s and challenges, right? So,
especially when we think we know what their style is. They haven't figured it out, then it's a big question mark.
Sion was a very big departure from what we expected here.
Yep. First pick Rise, though, is a scary one. So I do like that Jin Air were able to capitalize on it so effectively. I have a feeling we're not going to see it in game number 2. Grace moving on up here in the mid lane as Linderung's unchallenged versus Jisoo taking this inhibitor down. Jisoo even takes half of his health bar. The last remaining inhibitor is now under fire as the train once again is just going to crash into the wall. Jisoo in trouble, Blade of the Ruin King comes forward. Nova doesn't find the ultimate, but still they're in a good position. Ultimate flies onto Grace, but isn't going to pick up the kill as Catch is going to be low. Light dives as an afterthought there to Root, who's just throwing spells out left, right, and center. And Jin should be able to take this game here just as 30 minutes ticks over. Nexus turrets are obliterated by this Rise. He's an artillery cannon. As Jisoo, he spent some time on the fountain. It was not long enough. Still some low health bars here as they dive forward. Catch does go golden. Jisoo is relatively tanky, trying to get on that tank line, but once they decide to take him down, he is very dead, and Nova is the only target he can move towards. The Nexus is going to go down, and Jin Green Wings, the Glad Plane flies right over the top of ES Sharks.
Absolutely, Atlas. Honestly, they seem to put ES Sharks out of their misery in game number one. Jin was the one that often had to be put down after faltering in an early game. Kuzan need to find some fireworks champions that can ignite a game, because this was just Jin kind of just finding a very standard victory in game number one.
Yep, just straight up smashing them in almost every lane. I think bottom lane was the only place that things went slightly okay for ES Sharks as they were able to win that 2v2. But as you can see, it wasn't about the bottom lane. How many more?
He did more than the whole team.
Yeah, he also did more than 5 times the damage of the Scion.
I mean, he did the same as the whole enemy team, so...
Yeah, okay, that's good.
This Rise was...
No, it's almost exact.
I know. Let me do the math. 18.5, 21.8, 26.8, 29. It's like 30.7. So yeah, I mean,
almost
97% of the enemy team's damage was just the Rise. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Jin won. I think you can get your Glad Planes out for that one. I guess at least for game number one in isolation.
Of all the parallel universes, I'm surprised we ended up in this one.
Yeah. It's not what I was expecting out of this series. Hopefully we get something different from game number 2 from ES Sharks. I want to see the Kled. I want to see the Renekton. Come on, Jisoo, don't play Scion. You can't even drive the train. We'll see you after the break.